Hello, welcome to Building Healthy Teams, training by Transit Consulting Limited. It's my honor to have you join us on this training. My name is Bola Mensah. I am your facilitator, and it's good to have you join us. Now, this training will apply to any sector. So regardless of where you are working, this training is applicable. The major things we want to achieve with this training is that at the end, you'll be able to differentiate between activities and a purpose-driven team. And you'll see why the distinction determines long-term performance. And so the training is built around 4 pillars: purpose, people, process, and values. So we expect that at the end of this training, you'll be able to identify the 4 pillars of a healthy team and what breaks down when each one is missing. Then you'll also be able to describe specific evidence-based practices for each pillar that applies across sectors. So whether you are working in a government agency, you are in the NGO, you are in the sales team, wherever you are working, you should be able to apply these 4 pillars. And at the end, you should have a healthy team. So I want to encourage you up front. This training will become just another piece of information, just like a book on your bookshelf, if you don't apply it. So at the end of each session, please apply at least one thing that you learn, a tip, a skill, apply it. And I promise you that if you do that, you are going to see a change in the performance of your team, so that at the end of the day, this training will benefit you and your organization at large. So the training, so we are going to do session 1 and 2 on this first day, purpose and people. Then tomorrow we'll do process and values. Please, I encourage you to actively participate in the WhatsApp group where we'll have the interactive sessions. Once again, thank you for joining us. And so we're going to, like I said, we're starting with session 1, purpose. And I want to start with something uncomfortable. So I'm asking you this question now, and I truly want you to be honest with yourself. If you walked into your office tomorrow, call your team together and ask each person to write down in one sentence what your team exists to accomplish, you will get different answers. Not slightly different, significantly different. Why do I have the confidence to say this? Because I have run this exercise with teams in government agency, in the NGOs, field officers, with NGOs, field officers rather. I've run it with sales team. The result is almost always the same. People who work together every day in the same room, the same office, towards what they assume is a shared goal, do not actually share a clear understanding of what success look like. Now, that gap is not a communication problem. It is a purpose problem. And when there's a purpose problem, your team will be busy, they'll be exhausted and underperforming too. Because There's no clear definition of what success look like. And so what is the core problem? What is the core problem? The number one core problem is that activity is not the same as impact. I know that this sounds obvious until you look at your own team's weekly report. For example, a district head officer in, say, Lagos State, for example, runs 6 community outreaches program per quarter. 6 community outreaches program per quarter. The attendance, excellent. The report submitted on time. But child malnutrition rate in the district have not moved in 3 years. It's still the same. The team is busy, but the team is not effective because child malnutrition is supposed to be declining, but it's still the same. But the team is working. 6 community outreach programs per quarter. So multiply that times 4. That's 24 in a year. And for 3 years, the figures still remain the same. A sales team at a mid-sized firm, they make 200 calls per week. The call log are full. They will always update their customer relation records. But revenue has been flat for 2 quarters because nobody is tracking conversion quality. They were only busy, only volume call or call volume. We have called 200 customers. But how many of these customers or how many of these people they have called has actually converted to customer indeed, which will ultimately increase the sales revenue? You can see that the team is busy, but the team is not effective because they are not achieving the goal. So activity without direction is motion without progress. And it is the responsibility of the leader to close that gap. It is the responsibility, your responsibility as the leader to close the gap. Tasks will only describe what your team does. Purpose describe what changes because they do it. So, for example, a task-focused school administrator says, submit all reports by Friday. But the purpose-focused school administrator says, by end of term, every struggling student in year 3 should have received targeted support and show measurable improvement. What does each of us need to do this week to make that happen? That's focus-driven, not just submit reports by Friday. No, but that at the end of the term, for example, every child that is struggling in year 3, for example, they have received targeted support. That means the teacher, you make out time to pay more attention to this struggling student. And there must be improvement. So if they are scoring 5/10 before, they should score 7/10. So you can see same job, but different question and completely different team culture. One is just activity or task focus, but one is purpose focus. A task focused hospital ward manager can say, make sure all patient files are updated at the end of your shift. But a focus purpose ward manager says every patient on this ward should live with a better understanding of their condition than when they arrived. How are we doing in that regard? Or how can we achieve this week? Now, when they came in confused, they didn't understand what was wrong with them, but at the end of the week, they understand, oh, before they leave, oh, I'm dealing with high blood pressure, I'm dealing with cholesterol. What can we do to make that happen? That is someone who is purpose driven. The task still gets done, but the team now understand why it matters. So your team should know what success look like. That is when you become purpose driven. Not just we do this, so we meet every Monday and we clean this place every. Why are you cleaning the place every Monday? Why are you meeting every Monday, for example? Let me give you examples of two captains. Imagine two leaders running the same team with the same budget, the same people, and the same organizational mandate. Captain A checks in at the Monday meeting and asks, did everyone complete their deliverable from last week? Good. Here are this week's tasks. Any questions? The team members, they will leave the meeting knowing what to do, but they have no idea of why they are doing it. But let's look at Captain B. The same meeting, but you see, the meeting is being run differently. Before assigning anything, she spent 5 minutes connecting last week's work to the outcome the team is building towards. She names the one thing that the team achieved that moved the needle on the actual goal, which simply put, that moved them closer to their goal. Then she asks, what is one obstacle getting in the way of our progress this week? For example, last week we produced 150 bottles of water. Our goal is 150. Our goal is 500. And this is just, last week was the first week. So what is going to get in our way this week, not to be able to produce 150 again? Because if we're able to produce 150 this week, we are going to hit our target before the 4th week. We are going to go above our target of 500, because if we say 150 averagely per week, that means we are going to produce 600. So the team members, they leave the meeting knowing what to do and why it matters. Why we cannot fall below producing 150 every week. Over 12 months, Captain A team, they deliver. But Captain B team, they improved because they understand why they are doing what they are doing. So in these two captains scenario, Captain A manages compliance. So you will just, they don't, every day we just do this, every day we just do this. Why are we doing it? What are we connecting it to? But you see, Captain B builds capability. No, if we can do 150 last week, what's getting in our way of doing 200 this week? So you can see the difference between the two captains. One is just task focused, compliant, and one is purpose driven. They understand why they are doing what they are doing, not just doing it for doing sake. So I want us to look at 3 questions every team leader must answer. 3 questions. Before your next team meeting, you should be able to answer these 3 questions clearly. Number 1, what outcome is this team called to produce? Not activity. The change, not we run training programs. No, what changes in the people who attend those programs? So if at the end of these 2 days, nothing changes the way you lead your team, then I have failed. So you should be able to answer that clearly. The what? What is the outcome your team is called to produce, not just the activity. Why? Why does it matter? Who is affected if your team does not deliver? Be specific. Who is affected if your team does not deliver? If the quality of water we produce is bad, people's health will be affected. Our customers' health will be affected. How? How will you know you are making progress? Name three specific indicators that tell you the work is working, not output. Not just output, not that we produce 150 bottles of water. The outcomes. What's the effect of that water on the people who are drinking it? So, for example, a public health team, what should be their what? Every child under 5 in our catchment area receives full immunization coverage this year. That's their what? What should be their why? Unvaccinated children in low-income community face a preventable mortality risk of up to 30% higher than their vaccinated peers. So why? Why? If we don't vaccinate, the mortality rate is going to go up. And what is their how? Monthly immunization rate by ward. Each ward, how many did you immunize? Percentage of missed appointment followed up within 48 hours. When you go to a ward, it's not everybody that will be at home. So those ones that you missed, did you follow them up within 48 hours? How many? And a reduction in preventable under 5 admission. So you can see clearly now the what, the why, the how. This is purpose made measurable. This is what your team needs from you. So I want us to look at another angle. When you have done this, you have defined the what, the why, and the how, and someone is not still performing. They are not aligned with these 3 key questions that you have answered. What do you do as the leader? We have what is called the BIS tool. When someone is not delivering on the mission or purpose. When a team member is consistently falling short of the team purpose, most leaders do one of 3 things. They ignore it, they issue general reminder to the group, or they get frustrated and then micromanage. None of these 3 will work positively for your group. Instead, I want to advise you to use the BIS conversation instead. The B stands for behavior. Describe what you observe. Be specific, factual, no labels. For example, over the last 3 weeks, you have submitted your program report 2 to 4 hours late after the deadline. What's the impact of that? The I. Connect the behavior to the team purpose and the people affected. For example, because of late reports, our funders has flagged us twice, and our program coordinator cannot plan follow-up activity on time. So we risk the chance of losing further funding from our funding agency. The X, support. Ask what is getting in the way. Then offer help. Focus forward. For example, what is making submitting your report on time difficult? What support will you need to meet the deadline consistently from this point? This will work in an hospital ward when a nurse is missing documentation standards. It will work in a law firm when a junior associate is consistently late on filings. It will work in a government agency when a civil servant is not completing their field visit. The framework does not change, the context does. So it will work in any sector. So I want you to reflect on this question, and I want you to write your answers before moving on. Number one, write your team's purpose in one sentence. Start with, we exist so that, not what you do, what changes because you do it. Number two, if you ask each team member to write the same sentence right now, how different do you think the answers will be? Number three, is there a team member whose underperformance you have been addressing with task reminder? You just go and remind the group of what they need to do rather than a BIS conversation. What has that approach cost your team? What do I expect you to do? Your next step. This is application. Number one, write or rewrite your team's purpose statement. Share it with the team. Ask for their input. Number two, pick one recurring task your team does. Ask yourself, what outcome is this task supposed to produce? If you cannot answer clearly, that is your starting point for improvement. Number three, identify one team member who is falling short and schedule a BIS conversation before the end of this week. I believe strongly that if you apply this, your team will be more effective. Your team will be effective rather than being activity driven. Thank you very much for your time.